Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the preview of UAE Team Emirates, the #1 ranked World Tour team in 2023, one of the biggest teams in the world, most winning teams, and they have some pretty exciting transfers and difficult questions for them in 2024. In particular, I got some story time at the end. I have a question to pose to Benji and you, dear listeners. So got that story time coming up. Benji looks scared. And just a quick note on the Cian, because this podcast comes out the day after we record it. We are batch recording our previews at the moment, so we can't always respond to sort of breaking news. The Cian Uijtdebroeks transfer drama has not been resolved yet. And yesterday, or maybe the night before, Thijs Zonneveld, who's probably the biggest Dutch cycling journalist, or journalist who focuses on cycling. He writes in Algemeen Dag. Is that what it is? Luke will say yes or no. Algemeen Dag.
Close enough.
I bet you I pronounced it right. Benji always gaslights me when I try to do Dutch. Dagblad.
Algemeen Dagblad.
And then, because I always hear Dutch from the Netherlands, and then Benji's like, you sound stupid. Actually, he's just beefing with his neighbours. I don't know, every 2 minutes I start talking about disputes between Flemish and Netherlands. Anyway, on a more serious note, he released a podcast and an article saying that he has, from multiple sources, that Cian Uijtdebroeks had been, well, in his words, bullied at Broe, but notably Cian Uijtdebroeks hasn't commented publicly on that himself, nor his agent. So it's not really resolved. The story's getting sort of worse. No one's looking good, really. Everyone's getting slammed in the press. Visma Lisa Bike, Uijtdebroeks, Broe now. So yeah,
it's just unfortunate that we have to have the conversation about a potential bullying happening in cycling. So for the sake of the sport, I hope there's something. Yeah, it's not the case, but it sounds kind of like it is, which would be unfortunate.
Yeah, well, there's reports of a group, and I mean, again, Zonneveld's words, I think, an anti-Cian group chat, but maybe more information will come out. Maybe it gets resolved behind closed doors this week. Obviously, I don't really know much about what's going on for transparency as well. So I'm just going off what Zonneveld said for completeness. Daniel Benson and GCN contacted. The title said Broe respond, but it was actually Bernie Eisel. They contacted Bernie Eisel, who was maybe their former, or certainly former, maybe current colleague. He's sometimes on Eurosport GCN as an analyst or sideline reporter, who's the named DS by Zonneveld, who was sort of part of this alleged bullying, and he denied it 100%. So I don't know. Obviously, if you listen to Eisel separately doing the analysis, he doesn't really know much of what's going on, but that's by the by, generally speaking. So UAE Team Emirates, #1 World Tour team, Benji. Did they have, before we get into their wins, gut reaction, a successful 2023?
I would say their season is successful, but their main aim of winning the Tour de France might not have worked in that sense. So if we take a look at that, 29 World Tour victories of 57 victories, it's pretty damn successful if you look at the actual numbers. And it's not like those victories were solely in 1.2, 1.1 races. These were monuments like the Ronde van Vlaanderen and Lombardia with Tadej Pogacar, 2 stages at the Tour de France with Pogacar, 1 with Adam Yates, 2 riders on the podium of the Tour de France, which you're not winning, but that's the best thing that could come out of the Tour de France if you're not winning, is how I see it. So I would say UAE had a successful season, but I think they're missing the obvious elephant in the room, a Grand Tour victory, which it's hard to win a Grand Tour victory when Jumbo wins all of them in a season. So it's going to be curious whether the opportunity of Jumbo not having Roglic in the team might open up a possibility for a UAE Grand Tour victory in 2024. So that's a topic I want to spin in later on. But there's so many victories. Like, I'll list them all in our notes, but man, like Pogacar next to the victories I told you, Amstel, Flesch, GC plus 3 stages of Paris-Nice, And then he cleaned up Andalusia in the meanwhile as well. Adam Yates did more than just third at the Tour de France and winning the stage. The first stage, I'm pretty sure. He won a stage at UAE Tour. He lost GC because of echelons, right?
Yep. Yeah, stage 1 split.
2 stage at Tour de Romandie. Yeah, you're right. 2 stage at Tour de Romandie. 1 GP Montreal as well in pretty explosive fashion. Almeida podium the Giro for the first time, plus a stage win. Ayuso won 2 stages at the Tour de Suisse and 1 at Tour de Romandie. Is it surprising that the majority of Ayuso's World Tour victories are time trials?
It's a little bit surprising. It's surprising how much he won this year for someone who didn't race before like May or April, end of May, end of April rather, because he had the foot issue for a lot of the early season and off season. So when I look at, wow, he had 3 World Tour victories, and that's what jumps out at me. I mean, G mentioned that Ineos hadn't been surpassed by UAE because UAE was sort of all Pogacar. And you look at these victories at World Tour level: Milano, Pogacar, Yates, Wellens, Micah. Micah won a World Tour race. He won the Polonia sprint where he chopped the shit out of Kwiato or Moritz. Actually.
Milano won a stage at the Vuelta, won a stage at the UAE Tour, won a stage at Guangxi. That guy had 3 World Tour victories
February
to the
to
team.
October.
That's one of those things where Milano's kind of a Bauhaus of the team. It's very difficult to compare, and the sprint at UAE Tour was really impressive, but it feels like a similar thing.
Yeah, it is similar. Like Guangxi was not probably he's just always there. No versatility really, but is pure sprint. He seems to be able to sprint year round. But yeah, even Ackermann won a Giro stage this year. He's back to winning World Tour races. Jay Vine won the Tour Down Under GC, the first World Tour, in January. So Bjerg won the Dauphiné TT. So they're winning from January all the way through to just the last from the first to the last World Tour race of the year. Stages are plenty, 28 World Tour wins, and monuments. Benji obviously spoke about what was missing. I was particularly impressed, maybe as an acid test for their performance program, and particularly with climbers, seeing Adam Yates improve at over 30 years old, at 31 years old, come from Ineos and podium the Tour, first year of asking. This is his first year on UAE, right? I had his best season ever, Adam Yates. Unbelievable level. I have him as a top 5 GC rider in the world.
It's not just as a leader that he was so impressive at the Tour de France. Next to being a leader, when he was in domestique roles on certain occasions, he was kind of playing the edge role of leader and domestique, depending on the situation he was in GC and so forth. But he was better than Kuss at being a Sepp Kuss at the Tour de France, in my opinion. And that just showed throughout the entire season how good Adam Yates and how important Adam Yates has become for this team. And the fact that he can also win one-day races like Montreal, that adds on to it. And I hope that next year, that's one of the topics we'll talk about later, he might have that freedom in a Grand Tour to really go for the absolute victory himself without having to think about a second leader and so forth. But all in all, we mentioned so many victories. We forgot about McNuggets winning a Giro stage, Tim Wellens winning Renewey Tour, Bingo Bongo Tour. Sorry, I misspelled it. Anyway,
get it right.
What else can we say? It's like...
Well, the first Almeida, as you said, first Giro podium. So lots of good stuff. And I would say Ayuso improved and lots of positive trajectory. A few things probably can't all be positive. Is that definitely there was tactically, I don't think they were great a lot of the time. Not just, obviously everyone knows like the Behes, the Finfisher Black, obvious stuff where the car didn't call him back in the Vuelta to pace for Almeida, and then Almeida and Ayuso attacking. That's been going on since Catalunya 2022. So that was 18 months of that not being ironed out. But also in the Tour, maybe with Pogacar and some of the earlier Italian classics, but then they did get it right in Lombardia with Yates. It's also,
I think at the end of the season, it might be slightly bittersweet for the people in the team or the people that care about trying to win the Tour de France, because this year felt like the gap between Jonas and Pogacar at the start of the Tour de France was closer than people expected. And by the end of the Tour de France was much bigger than people expected. And it needs to be closer for people to think Pogacar can win the Tour de France next year. And it's all about figuring out, self-evaluating what the issues are. And it's not like you're in a situation where Pogacar has done everything he could to be at his best in that Tour de France. He probably has, to be clear. He probably has done his best to do everything he could to be at his best. But he had impacts of the LBL and so forth. But also next to that, they seem to have not figured out the perfect formula yet, because he's kicking the same stone every time, which is that same thing we spoke about every single year already, which is energy expenditure in stages, followed up by a very heavy stage with lots of energy expenditure, with a long climb, that kind of stuff combined together. That seems to be a weakness of Pogacar right now. And the guy doesn't have many weaknesses, but it's costing him the challenge of the Tour de France every single time. So it's self-evaluating how they can fix that. And that will decide whether he can compete for the Tour de France.
Yeah, because lack of mountain support wasn't a problem. You mentioned already, Adam Yates could reduce the group to 3 riders whenever he wanted, including himself. So he was the third best climber in the race, Adam Yates. Yeah. So that wasn't the problem. And yeah, I'm not sure. Well, we're about to find out. Will these incoming transfers, which we'll talk about, will they help with that big goal? I'll say up front, the UAE are winning they're winning the points, UCI points ranking next year by a much bigger margin than this year. Roglic is out at Jumbo, and they're bringing in guys like Sivakov. They're going to win this. They should walk it next year. And Sivakov's, I think, the biggest name, probably on the biggest contract they brought in from Ineos. I'd encourage you to listen to I listened to the Cycling Podcast interview with him, with Freber, where he touches on why he moved a little bit. 26 years old, prime of his career. Do you expect him to step up in level, Benji, like Yates did?
Ooh, I find it interesting, as in, we've seen a Pavel Sivakov, was it in 2020 Dauphiné, where he was really bloody strong as a domestique for Skinny-Oz back in the day? I feel like we've had a lot of bad luck in Sivakov's camp in Grand Tours, but also some weird situations when it comes to not being able to show up at the Grand Tour because he wasn't selected, even though he looked to be really in form. Then he was really good in the Italian Classics last year, and just all that combined shouts at me that he will be great at this team when it comes to the Italian Classics. But I believe he can step up in the Grand Tour that he's being sent to as well. But I will warn you already, I've had a really, really difficult time figuring how to put their roster into 3 Grand Tours, because there's so many good riders in this.
He said in that interview, he basically had, if he's fit, he goes to the Tour.
There's just, and like, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
Ayuso said he wants to do the Tour. Almeida said he wants to do the Tour. Pogacar's probably going to do the Tour. Like, there's only 8 people in there. We need some rulers too.
Nah, fuck it. Just take out even Trentin and Stegelangen. 8 climbers. Just send squads of 4 on every uphill. Why not? Try something different. But yeah, you're right. So he said in that interview that he's going to, and this is it, we're getting straight to your point now. He's doing Paris-Nice. Okay, so Poggi will do Tirreno. I expect the Tour guys to do Tirreno, because that allows you're then in Italy, and there's an Italian Grand Depart, so that would make sense to do Tirreno. And also Strada, I think Pogacar will do. So Pog will do Tirreno. Well, that's 2 big stage races. Sivakov said he's leading Paris-Nice. Well, you've got Adam Yates. You've got, as you said, Almeida, Ayuso, Vine.
If he says he's leading Paris-Nice, that doesn't mean that
he's like
7
UAE
other people
leading.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that 7 other people at UAE might not be leading Paris-Nice, because we've seen this pattern of UAE just sending 3 or 4 leaders to every single 1 week race that Pogacar's not at. So it's not unrealistic to me that Ayuso might show up there, or I don't know, I'm just thinking of names like Brendan McNulty might get some freedom there. Soler might get some freedom there.
McNulty. It's a really good course of McNulty.
Yeah, but last year was slightly disappointing in the GC side of things when it comes to McNulty. I feel like he had the stage win at the Giro, but I don't recall anything else from him.
I think he wanted to focus on stages, but this
Okay.
Paris is really, really good for him. It's a Tej Benoit course, actually. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Oh no, we won't talk about that later. We're just not going to talk about the Paris Michael, which got announced. They had a bad day to announce it. They released it at the same time as Zonnevel's interview was getting translated into English.
But before we venture into the rest of the incoming transfers, very quickly, Trenton's out, Ackermann's out, Bennett's out, Formolo's out, Gibbons is out, Felix Grosch is out, and Polans retires. Of these riders, who is replaceable and who is not replaceable?
All of them.
As in,
except
replaceable or not replaceable?
They're all replaceable, except maybe Trenton.
Okay.
I think Trenton, I don't know exactly, but I think Trenton was a pretty good rider, pretty experienced rider, and especially when when everyone was, if you go back, watch the Marie Blanc, if you've got a spare 4 hours, go back and watch Stage 5 Tour de France and watch before Marie Blanc, the only person who was keeping calm was Trenton. And a lot of these, like Bjerg, just freaking out. All the other guys freaking out in the break formation, in chasing breaks. Grand Colombier is the one, actually. Grand Colombier. But maybe Trenton, I don't know. Like, maybe he's not actually a good road captain. He has that reputation. He certainly he made Group 1 in the Tour of Flanders. Yeah. I don't see Niels Pollitt making that Group 1 in the Tour of Flanders. So I think he's a better classics rider than Pollitt, but Pollitt may be a better all-around rouleur, frankly.
I agree, and that's why it depends on which classic it is. Pollitt for Roubaix, I rate higher than Trenton for Roubaix, for example. It's like the hilly cobble classic versus the flat cobble classic, and I think we both agree with that. But like, yeah, Ackermann being out, George Bennett being out. Formolo is one where I do feel like they might miss something. He had something to offer, but I also think he's replaceable, and that Sivakov definitely replaces that as well. So I'm not too worried about these outgoing transfers. And like you said, the Sivakov transfer, I see upside there. I'm bullish on it. When it comes to Pollitt, that's something we've been shouting at for a year and a half, right? Or 2 years or 3 years, as in the break formation. In 2023 as well, they were missing something. They're missing, when it comes to break formation, let's say 5 riders go up the road. Let's say a second group tries to bridge, a second group of 5 riders. You need a rider in the peloton that slowly grapples that second group back before they can make the first group. And sometimes they were just jumping to the second group, which means that nobody's chasing the second group anymore. And then it would become a breakaway of 13 riders. And then they're in the breakaway instead of having the breakaway caught. And
called the Lalo stage. That's exactly what happened. Exactly, but even bigger.
Yeah, true.
Jumbo start jumping with Kelderman and Benoit. Soler and Micah go full gas chase. Yep. Actually, I can't remember who was chasing. I think UAE were trying to get in the break. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And anyway, it ends up with 2 Jumbo satellite riders and a break of 25 and full gas all day with Ineos then chasing a dangerous break, and it didn't end well for Poggi. So, but even in the medium mountain stages, it's exactly right. On that point, Benji, I think they've had a fantastic transfer window, by the way. We'll get we're only a third of the way through the podcast, but the previews, but this is an unbelievable transfer window, got to be said. But how much have they added? If Trenton's out, Pollitt's in, okay, let's say he's marginally better, like on stage 10 or 12, he was very impressive in the break formation, albeit making bad decisions. He was leaving Hindley on his own. How much better, really, have they got in that regard?
How I see it is that
they added, more.
I see their transfer window as like Sivakov being a slight upgrade and Pollitt being a slight upgrade, but also in addition to that, just the youngsters that they brought in are exponentially better than the people that went out if those youngsters keep growing. As in Isaac Del Toro, like the guy at the halfway Lavenier, he was doing great, but he wasn't on the spot of like he's winning already. And then he crawled back the the deficit he had in the final segments and so forth. Because like whenever there's a TTT in a race like L'Avenir, then all the riders on countries that aren't the mainstream cycling countries, the countries with like 8 riders that are fully properly talented, stuff like that. A Mexican team, like there's the talent is slightly limited there. And as a consequence, Del Toro had to work with a team that might not be perfect, with maybe equipment that might not be perfect and so forth. So it's like the man had such a deficit because of that and still crawled back and started beating people up. Not literally, by the end of L'Avenir. So that's a huge talent. Then Morgado's a huge talent as, correct, as a 19-year-old. It's easy to forget that, but this guy's really bloody talented, and he's got that Pogacar rockstar feeling when I see him on the bike, you know? It's like the Ayuso rockstar feeling, and Morgado is like, I love him as a rider. His mustache is amazing. He rides the way I like people to ride, aggressive and so forth, but I expected a slight bit more when it comes to his U23 results last year.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I'm pretty sure he already had a UAE contract basically sewn up at the end of 22, but you're right, like L'Avenir, Giro Ciclisto delle Valle d'Aosta Mont Blanc, Giro U23, nothing. Like not even sniffing the top 10 in any stage, in the biggest stage races. And then Worlds, he was good, but also that, you want to see Group 2 dynamics. Poor, that group chasing Laurence was despicable. I can't remember. One guy was trying to work in it. And anyway. But yeah, Morgado, very, very highly rated from Hagen's Berman Axion. Sort of all-rounder, I would say. Igor Arrieta from Equipo Confama. He is the son of Jose Luis Arrieta, who was a Movistar director who left Movistar sort of acrimoniously. And so Arrieta, not the biggest talent, but certainly a nice rider. He won't be on that much money. And just also a Spanish speaker, obviously. And Paul, you've already mentioned, and Baroncini I really, really like. So Baroncini's he won the U23 World Championships road race. He went to Trek, and we've said this before, but if you look at Trek's incoming Neo Pros, they get the best of the best. They bring in the best of the best European champs, world champs, Simmons, apart from Bristenga, that one was a little bit strange. And Baroncini crashed all the time. He crashed. He broke his elbow like twice in 2.5 years, or basically 2 years. And so that doesn't leave you much chance to perform. And he was really good doing a lead out for Thibaut Naes in Wallonie. I was impressed. So the back end of this year, you won't see it on PCS, but he's really good. And Italian Classics, he'll slot in nicely there.
And in the Italian Championships, which for some reason I watched the Italian Championships, but like I barely watched the other ones. And he was in one of the final groups. And if I recall, with about 3 kilometers to go, he had a puncture, which then eventually led to him not being able to sprint for the victory, which I think he would have won. So he could have been Italian champion if not for his puncture in the final few kilometers, which also doesn't show on his results. So it's like, to know how decent this guy is, you need to have seen the races.
Yeah, and so that's a really, really good pickup by them as well. So don't be surprised to see him if people are like, who is this? Why did no one pick this guy? Well, just didn't have the best run of luck in his Neo-Pro year. So yeah, it's actually heavy on younger guys, their transfers.
I like it.
Yeah, it is, because like last year they brought in one Neo-Pro, which was Jan Christen, and he only joined, I think, in August.
Yes.
So they didn't bring in any Neo-Pros or young guys last year. It was all guys over 25, just about. The year before was the younger guys. Not all of them worked out. Well, some are younger. Like, actually, this is a big change for them. So interesting to see. They're going younger and younger. But yeah, there's one experienced rouleur in there, and it's sort of climby boys is the rest, or Italian classics, hill classics style guys. So how would I rate their transfers? I still think they're missing a rouleur, so I can't give it an A+. but all the guys they did sign, I really, really like. And all the guys they let go, I can see why they did, because like Grosschartner can do Formula's role probably more, even more happily. Yeah. All right. Now the contentious discussion, Benji. How do we allocate the Grand Tours amongst all these GC riders?
I think it's very difficult. Obviously, there's 3 Grand Tours, Giro, Tour, Vuelta. Let's start with the first one, Giro d'Italia. What I would like to see is Adam Yates as leader in the Giro, but I'm going to disagree with what one of the leaders has said in the last 4 months, which is Almeida has said he wants to do the Tour de France. I think he should do the Giro d'Italia. And the reason I believe that is because if Remco's not there, if Roglic is not there, then he was third on the podium. Then if he gets even a little bit closer or Thomas gets a little bit worse, then he can also compete for a potential victory at the Giro, while Adam Yates can also try and do that. So then they've got 2 options of winning the Giro d'Italia, which is going to be more likely a victory than if you send one rider. So I believe I like the Yates Almeida duo. And in addition to that, he's also one of the riders where, no offense, Almeida, but I don't see you winning the Olympic road race. I don't see you winning the World Championships in Zurich. So I'm thinking maybe a Giro Vuelta double again for him in that sense. And with Adam Yates, I'm doubting then whether it's Giro Vuelta or Giro Tour or something. Because like Adam Yates is really valuable at the Tour de France as well, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like when you look at the 2 individual time trials, one is kind of hilly, but then why shouldn't Ayuso do the Giro then? He's good in the cold conditions. He won the Giro U23. Good-ish TT.
I have a reason why. The reason I chose Almeida for the Giro over Ayuso and Ayuso for the Tour de France next to Pogacar over the Giro is because what is Almeida going to do as a dual leader? Ayuso can at least try to attack. Yeah. Almeida just he just motors. Vroom vroom. Like he just does Almeida things, and that's not something where I feel like that's gonna put Vingegaard in any trouble.
I think you're right. But then don't you really, really, really want to win the Giro? Like Roglic is gone. He's not doing the Giro. Remco's not doing the Giro. They really, really got to win the Giro. So, but then they probably don't want to pair Almeida and Ayuso together after the Vuelta. So,
I think Yates and Almeida have a realistic chance of winning the Giro against Thomas.
Definitely. And it's a good course for both of them, I think.
And also,
okay, I agree.
Jay Vine, I have a difficult time figuring out where to send him throughout the season, but I feel like the Giro is more likely at this point.
No, I wouldn't send him to the Giro.
We send him to the Tour de France.
He's good in the hot weather.
But yeah, Giro Vuelta.
That's the thing. You now have but okay. Say Ayuso goes to the Tour. And Yates isn't? Does Micah decline? I mean, Micah was actually really good at the back end of the Tour this year, and Polonia afterwards he was really good then. But do you send, instead of Yates and Micah, Sivakov and Vine? And then Ayuso's the co-leader.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing that I have. Is Giro Tour double viable for Adam Yates to do that?
I wouldn't do it with him. I wouldn't.
Because then you would indeed have to replace Adam Yates, and then Vine is one of the names that immediately comes up. Sivakov, I don't see him at that spot yet. I see him as a domestique before
be surprised.
Yeah, he's done it before, like on previous years that weren't as high level.
Yeah.
But it's like
Ayuso's in the Yates spot, according to you.
As in, yeah. Like he can't do I don't think he can do the same domestique work, but I think he's a good co-leader. Obviously, Pogacar's number 1, but he's a good co-leader to wreck some chaos.
And then, like, I think it'd be you can imagine Vine on, like, I don't know, that stage 17. It's like 6K 7%.
Yeah.
Where Pogacar just says 10 minutes, like full gas, and blow yourself up. So, okay, well that's like 5 climbers. And then Pollitt, Paula got to go.
So
Bjerg will
that's Tour de
go.
France, right?
Yeah.
Tour de
And
France, we have Pogacar, Ayuso, Sivakov, Maika, Pollitt,
no, I didn't
and
take
Van.
Micah. You can't take
You,
Micah
you,
and
you ditch
Vine.
Maika.
You can't. You have to choose.
I'm not sure they're going to choose between those two. I think Maika's dead set to go to the Tour de France.
Maybe they get Vine to just focus on 1 weeks.
Sorry, but the disrespect.
But he can go and win or try to compete at 1 weeks.
Yeah, but a lot of these riders can.
So, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, who will be happier to do that? Sivakov won't be happier to do that. He wants to do the Tour.
Yeah, but you can combine it, eh? You can do Tour de France and have 1 week around it, eh?
But they got to take Bjerg. They got to take Pollard.
Yeah.
Were they supposed to take Wellens this year? Was he on the long list and then got injured?
I don't know. He was injured at
I think so.
Tour of Flanders, and as a consequence, he didn't race for a while. And because of that, I think he wasn't in. But it's also like he's got his like warm for sun allergy thing.
He's allergic to the sun.
And I don't know how that's going to influence him at the Tour de France, because there's historically pretty good sun in France in the summer.
Dude, yeah, the massive Central in July, notoriously not not that cold. I don't know if he's fixed that, but yeah, if assuming he has, I would also take him over. I would have him down, Wellens as a versatile guy. So that's gonna be tricky. But
where does he go?
Giro Vuelta.
I see that possible. Yeah. And McNulty, another one of those names that would have been in the Tour de France team, where I'm like, I don't think he's proven to be in that right now.
Oh, didn't I say Poggy should? No, Poggy should be doing the Giro.
You completely switched now.
I forgot that. Yeah, he should do the Giro. Just clean it. It's freebie.
I don't want to see that. I want Adam Yates and Almeida at the Giro. I don't want Pogacar at the Giro. I know Pogacar can clean the Giro, but the Tour de France is more important than the Giro. And I feel like giving up before you even try is not how I see Pogacar.
Yeah, maybe Giro Tour double, and I would skip the classics and do Giro Tour double personally. But I think he'll do the Tour Vuelta double. I think he'll do Tour, then I think he'll do the Vuelta as well.
You're saying Tour Vuelta double, but how realistic is that with Pogacar also being willing to win in Zurich and being willing to win Olympics?
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Not ideal. But I think it's okay. But he's gotta skip trying to be in shape at fucking Andalusia, man. Like, he's gotta give that away. But he only had 49 race days this year. And so then if he gives away Andalusia and then has a pretty limited prep for the Tour, yeah, then he's still at 70 race days. That's a lot, but it'll be less with... You'd have to probably give away some Italian classics. I think he could do it. I think he could do a 67 race days. That'd be okay. But I don't know. But I'd like to see him do the Vuelta. I think it really, really suits him. So I'd love to see him back there. The classics... Is he going to do all the hill classics again, Benji? Or is he going to, is he going to do E3 tune-up, Tour of Flanders, then the hill classics, straight into then altitude, Dauphiné, altitude tour?
I actually don't know. As in, does Pogacar want to risk it again like he did last year by doing that many? Like, the more classics you do, the more chance you have of crashing out.
Yeah.
Is how I perceive that. And Tour of Flanders and E3, I'm not sure if he's going to do Tour of Flanders again.
Man, but I think he really liked it. He said he really likes the race. And he's the
thing is, Pogacar likes half the fucking season. If you give him a plate of pick the buffet of races, he's going to do 365 races next year. Like, he's going to do 2 races per day if possible. So
no Mont Ventoux challenge.
So like,
I don't know if that's being scrapped this year. Maybe the women's. He's got to give. Something's got to give. Something's got to give if he wants to do everything. So
I think
But it'd be really. I cannot wait to hear their team presentation announcements of their calendars because it's really difficult.
yeah, because like outside of Pogacar for the classics, you do have other riders. Polit, Wellens,
Wellens,
Bjerg, Short Bucks. I think in Roubaix was pretty long. He was in that last group for a while. But you've got filler like Rui Oliveira and Langen. But also, I'm curious to see Baroncini in Hill and Cobble Classics as an Italian Classics fit for him. I'm wondering if the Cobble combination works as well. Hilly Classics, you've got Hirschi, Großschartner, all those riders combining together. But you're
McNulty.
right.
Send McNulty to the Hill Classics.
Agree, fully agree. But in the Cobble Classics and the Hill Classics, if you send Pogacar, he's leader. That's something that's clear.
Yeah.
Same goes for the Italian Classics.
And if Yates does the Giro, he can't do the Hill Classics, I don't think, after Amstel.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And I'd love to see Yates in Liège. He'd be cooking. So very, very difficult. And this is where we've done this long discussion and we can't pick every team, but I think I've said tongue in cheek, yeah, Poggi to the Giro. I do think it is a good idea, but the reality is they've already pretty much nixed that idea. They've already pretty much said it's not happening, so it's not realistic.
I would send Pogacar to LBL to play with Remco's head before the Tour de France. Because if you can beat him at LBL, you're punching him in the ego. And then it's all or nothing for Remco at the Tour de France. That's added pressure. Because
the only problem is he's got to beat Jonas, not Remco.
Yeah, I know. I know, but it's funny.
I want to see them go head to head in Liège because that would have been so awesome this year.
Yes.
That would have been fantastic this year. That was a shame with Pogacar's crash.
Yeah.
But anyway, long discussion about this to come to the sort of the broader point that I think we are now reaching a critical threshold.
Yes.
Where it's going to be borderline impossible for UAE to keep everybody happy. Now, they've done a pretty good job of it to date, with some notable exceptions of A.S.O and Almeida.
Yeah.
But like Yates, I think Yates was perfectly happy with his 2023.
He should be. I agree.
Yeah. Like playing the fucking Tour de France, man. So, but I think we're reaching a critical point now where if you keep stacking in second-tier GC guys who all have been said, yeah, you get leadership at World Tour race, it's going to be really hard if they're all fit to keep people happy. So I think we're going to see more chaos on the road this year.
There's only 8 leadership spots in Catalonia, mate. They can't get more than 8 GC leaders. But I fully agree. That's the critical point they reached, but they've also reached a critical point, in my opinion, where Pogacar is not just going to be able to choose his calendar based on the races he really wants to win, but more on trying to win the important races he wants to win. As in, I believe that he's going to do a more select classic season this year. And that's why I believe that LBL might be the one and not RVV. Or maybe he does the other way around, but I think it's going to be more limited because he might not want to limit himself at the absolute top races, because I do believe that Tadej Pogacar he's done with getting chopped up by Jonas.
Yeah. The thing is, they're still looking for that genuine, like, Remco Roglic level. Like, Yates was so good on the Tour, but he really wasn't a threat to Jonas.
Yep.
Like, Jonas didn't chase to pull Yates back on stage 1. Like, he didn't react to that. So it's still a lot on Pogacar here. That's
why it's also interesting that they're going for that young signings strategy of trying to get as much young GC talent in there. Like, A.S.O probably hasn't reached this peak. I'm expecting like a year where he just levels up to the point that he's like, oh fuck, he is Pogacar's brother now, his Spanish brother. And like, if that happens in 2024 and you send Pogacar and A.S.O to the Tour de France, then we're going to see some absolute light show at the Tour de France. Like, even if A.S.O is at the level of Pogacar 2023, the combination of those two will make the race very interesting, in my opinion.
I think we will see of the riders contracted through 2026, out of Ayuso, Almeida, McNulty, we will see one of them force a departure at the end of 24,
I think
or
Ayuso.
a really big blow up. The problem is, how do you get bought out from UAE? But I think that will happen. And you think Ayuso is the most likely candidate?
Yeah, I feel
I
like
agree.
Ayuso is the most likely candidate because I feel like he's the most ambitious of the second tier GC riders. He wants to conquer the world. And if he feels like somebody's going to stop him from conquering the world, he's going to try and find someone else to work with to conquer the world. So that's how I perceive that. And I don't think that's arrogance, Eden. I see that as like I kind of want to see him.
He's good as fuck, man.
I want to see him succeed at some point.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece to like look at. Like, sometimes I dislike that riders with actual personality that dare to say what they think get so criticized in this sport because of the traditional thinking going on. And Yuzo is an example, just like Remco was, for example. So
if I was a rider, if I was even half decent, I would turn up to the Tour de France team's presentation dressed like Gary Oldman, Tim Roth, Adrian Brody on the Prada catwalk, dressed as villains. I would look like a Count Dracula. I would just go full heel. We need a full heel, not in a Moscowan way, like in a more funny way. Yeah, that's what I mean. But yeah, I used to like a 20 years old podium of Vuelta. Like we say, no results, but podium of Vuelta at 20 years old is is okay.
Exactly.
So I agree that seems to be, that's gonna be something to really keep an eye on. I think next year. What would you like to see them achieve, Benji? I think, like, what do you think? I think their goal will be to win all 3 Grand Tours.
Win all.
Do the Jumbo.
Step one is winning one
Jumbo season.
I think step one is winning one Grand Tour, because that's gonna beat already their Grand Tours in 2023. So my list is like win a Grand Tour, win a monument, ideally 2. Success throughout the entire season, because that's why they built this team for the UCI World Tour ranking and so forth. I want to see Wellens win the Bingo Bongo Tour. I want to see some, I don't know, someone win Tour de Suisse or something. Next to Pogacar cleaning up some 1-week races in addition to trying to win the Tour de France. Jay Vine trying to win Santos Tour Down Under again, stuff like that. Out of the team's presence, world champion Poggi and Zurich would be pretty cool to see, won't lie. There's a year that we need to have a Pogacar world champion. It needs to happen.
Good course for him.
Exactly. But it's also good course for like a Remco, for example, even though Pogacar is easier, can finish it off better. But in Wollongong, for example, he didn't get to finish it off. But like, what I want to see from them is competitiveness as all 3 Grand Tours in addition to winning 1.
Yep.
They need to podium all 3 Grand Tours at least, and they need to win 1. Ideally,
I think that's a minimum, And then they got to win a monument, and maybe 2, and then world champ Poggi is a little bit outside of their control, but he'd be hoping for probably a medal at the Olympics too, I dare say.
I want a 1, 2, 3, 5. No, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in an Italian classic. Sorry, but that has to happen. That's your goal now, Machin.
I reckon we're going to see 2, 3, 4, 5 in GC at a race.
Oh,
imagine! I'd love to see Jay. I'd love to see Jay at the Tour ripping it up. I think it really suits him. It's hot conditions, so I'd love to see him in good shape at the Tour. Personally, obviously, and also some 1-week race. I'd love to see McNulty as the Hill Classics too. I think there's really some unexplored potential with him there. Time for the prediction of their World Tour number of victories, Benji. They won 28 World Tour races in 2023. In 2022, they won
28 or 29. I counted 29, but I could be wrong.
18 in 2022. In 2028, 2024, sorry. 20, what year are we in? 2023? No, 28, according to PCS.
Okay.
And in 2021, it was 14. So they're adding 4 into big mass. So next year, I'm going to predict Milano's good. Sivakov's in. Yace is good. I'm gonna predict 31.
I believe that Milano might not be able to repeat his 3 World Tour victories. Ackermann's out, McNulty, but I think they can replace those Giro stage wins. I believe Adam Yates will also once again be successful in at least one stage in a Grand Tour. I think Pogacar, I kind of believe that he might win more than 2 stages at a Grand Tour next year. I'm gonna go with the team that they brought in. In addition to that,
The team that they brought in might not win that many.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm gonna go with 30.
Okay, we've got 31 for me.
Like,
and 30 for Benji. For context, Jumbo won 38 this year, but they have 3 sprinters on the roster, which makes things easier.
at first I wasn't gonna go for like a number like 34, but the more I think about it,
It's really hard. You reach a point where it's without sprinters, really hard.
Exactly. So I'm going for my 30.
Like
Hot
the
takes?
ones they do win are like their 1-day classics. Has Poggy won Strada?
Yes, he has.
He has. Strada Bianca.
Last year, right? Am I dumb? The one
He
where he
did.
rode away and had that major solo?
Oh, yeah. What 1 days he's got left to win? MSR
Yes.
and Roubaix.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any hot takes for this team,
Still
Benji? We already
Prijsfichte.
still Price Victor and the Omloop van het Houteland.
Super 8 Classic. He could actually compete for Houtland, probably.
I know what that is.
It's like a gravel kind of thing, like Antwerp Port Epic.
Does he win the Hoofer gravel race? The Hoofer Lisa one?
I don't know, man. He could.
He hasn't won TDU yet. Washed. Scared to come down here. Any hot takes for this team, Benji?
It is difficult.
They're just going to do what they do, I think.
Yeah.
There's no significant changes in management, although Inigo San Milan, who was the co-head of performance, as I understand, with Swat, who's a South African who I think co-owns Science to Sport with Wakefield, another South African who was at UAE, now is at Bora Hansgrohe, because then Dan Lorang, the Luxembourger, went up to manage the performance team into the Huisboer role. Anyway, San Milan has taken a job at Atletico Bilbao in the Basque country. He's Basque as their head of performance. I understand he's still both a professor at a university in Colorado, and I thought he was still coaching 5 or 6 riders on UAE, which might have included. Well, it did include Pogacar. He was Pogacar's coach. So I don't know whether he is still Pogacar's coach in 2024. I think he is because Luke will bring it up if I'm wrong, but UAE, in their team announcement, they listed all their staff for 2024, and I believe he was still listed, but I think he's no longer head of performance, and that's all Swart. So what change that means on the road, impossible to know. But it's just, I like talking about staff movements.
I'm going to say that Pogacar is going to lose Algarve to Remco. I'm not sure if that's a hot take. The route just fits Remco, so that's why.
Do they have 2 climbs in Algarve?
Yeah, Alto de Foya and Mayao. And then
is there
the
a statue of
20
Remco on
kilometers.
Foya yet?
I don't know.
Just mile. Yeah. All right. Algarve start list is going to be stacked. It is going to be stacked, that start list.
Why are we avoiding hot takes? How can we not figure out
I just
one
don't
hot
have
take
any.
for this
I mean, are you so leaving, getting angry? What is it? What is there? Yeah, is it a hot take for me to say that I don't think Poggy's going to win the Tour? He's not the Tour favorite. And
yeah, but it's
I
boring
got
to say that Vingegaard wins the Tour de France. So I'm gonna go with Ayuso wins the Tour de France.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. You got there. You go. There you go. You warmed up. I mean,
then Wellens wins it.
I always gotta do the Poggy, you know, hating Poggy as a bit, but I don't want to do that. I have to do that all year, so I can't be bothered to do that in their preview. They don't podium a Grand Tour.
Nah, not fucking happening.
I'm
going to the point that Yates podiums 2 Grand Tours.
It's a hot take, Benji. That's the point. It's unlikely to happen. It's extremely unlikely. Yeah, they don't podium a Grand Tour.
It's like some of these teams, like with Jumbo as well, there's like such limited hot takes that are positive that you can push, that you kind of have to go for a negative one to be able to have a hot day. Oh, no. I disagree. We'll see.
Well, Borahan's Groe
I'm about to show up
on their team mid-Grand Tour, and he stays in the same GC position.
I'm about to show up on the Jumbo pod with Jumbo's not going to podium any Grand Tour.
Possible.
That's a hot take.
It's possible. Anything's possible. Oh yes, that's the UAE preview. I do think they're very short on rouleurs, and they haven't fixed that problem, even with Pollard, when I look at the roster. And so I think that's going to continue to be a problem for them, but they're still going to win a lot of races, and they're still going to be very successful. And I can't wait to see Poggy against Jonas in the Tour next year, if indeed that is the race he does. But it's time for my story time. I'm not leaving yet, Benji. It's time for my story time. So, I was at coffee the other day, just getting breakfast. As you know, on a diet at the moment. I'm flying. Thanks for asking. Anyway, couple next to us, probably having a pretty intense chat for 6:45 in the morning, and they end up. I don't know if they were breaking up, but it was not good. It was not good. And anyway, they leave. On the table is a full slice of banana bread, pre-sliced into squares, right? And bear in mind, I'm running 1,000 calorie deficit a day, and at this point in the day, you know, it looked to me like a sign from the gods. And I hadn't tasted the banana bread at this establishment yet. I've never done this before. And I was like, surely I can just take a corner, you know, like they're gone. It's a whole slice of banana bread, and it's pre-sliced as well. It's not like a muffin. If someone's bitten out of a muffin left on the table, I'm not going to fucking eat that. And I thought, and yeah, they basically like, it's like the banana bread also has sadness in it, you know? So I was like, from what went down, is it play on to take had to try it out? I did. And Mrs. Rouge was like, you're fucked. She's like, she was like, we have to leave. Come back here again. I tried anyway. It wasn't that good. So I also saved myself probably $6. I won't buy it there. The rest of it.
So you ended with sadness.
No sadness, because it cost me nothing. I haven't got sick yet from it. So is that play on? What do people think? I think it is, evidently. What do you think, Benji?
Mate, I don't care.
It's just abnormal behavior, probably. It's like, it's not like illegal. It's just abnormal behavior, I guess.
I can't wait to bring you to a Belgian frituur just for you to start eating other people's foods.
No, I've never done this before in my life. But it was just there. It was like,
you just jump into the kitchen, start making food yourself.
No, it was because it was pre-sliced. It's like a tasting plate. It's like when they put it out on the counter, a tasting plate. And they do that with banana bread sometimes. What's the difference? Yeah. And yeah, we might be, don't tell anyone, but we might be going to Belgium next year for the classics and visiting it for a tour and making some content and riding around. So if any pros want to join us, looking at you, William Lassurf, for a ride around some of the famous climbs in Flanders, hit us up, because we're making some cool stuff there. And I'll be showing Benji some Flemish artwork as well, because we can't all be fun in games. Got to do some art tours. But that was the UAE preview. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you with Decathlon Age des Heures Le Mondial Citroën next. Ciao.